Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news. It's Tuesday. There's a lot to talk about. We have got transfers. That midfield overhaul is ongoing. There seems to be updates on Manuel Ugarte and his position at Manchester United. Fabrizio Romano has been talking about that. We've also got the news about Bruno Guimaraes as well and how he may well be one of the targets for Manchester United in the summer. There's some other sort of updates leading into the Newcastle game as well. Nick Multimada sort of started the season well, didn't he? And then is now all of a sudden in crisis somehow. He won't be playing, or it looks like he won't be playing for the game tomorrow night at St James's Park. There's all sorts to get into, but first of all, how is everyone? How are we doing on this fine Tuesday morning? I want to start with this midfielders stuff. Let's start with this story that we saw sort of yesterday a little bit. I want to get into a bit more. I want people's thoughts on it directly, and then we'll look at Manuel Ugarte as well, because it's clearly a position of the pitch that is going to be radically transformed this summer. Casemiro is definitely leaving. It looks like Ugarte will probably leave as well if someone wants to have him. I think the one thing that will probably make it easier for him to go is he's not on mega money. One problem we've had, with sort of, if you want to call it a failed transfer, like Ugarte in the past, is that not only did they cost 50 million quid, but they're on 250, 300 grand a week. My understanding, the general understanding around Ugarte's contract is it's far less than that. I think somewhere around 150,000 a week. I'll just double check this now. So we're not messing around with bad numbers here. Reports are, let's have a look, somewhere in the region of 5 years plus one. We'll find out. If you can have a look for that for me, please, producer Ben. I can't find the numbers on that. But I think it's around 150,000 a week, which obviously is still a load of money, but a lot more teams can afford that than can afford 250,000 a week. So I'm confident that we'll be able to shift in this summer if that's what they decide to do. But this is the story that Casemiro was basically telling the board and the people at Manchester United to replace him with Bruno Guimaraes. Newcastle's probably best player, I would say now, especially after Isak's left. Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, Elliot Anderson, names that we've heard before. United is already plotting a major summer transfer spree. The Red Devils are expected to invest over 230 million to replace Casemiro, who has announced he will not renew his contract after the World Cup, leaving a key hole in the midfield. A blank check for Casemiro's successors, it says at the bottom there. The hunt is on for an irreplaceable midfielder, a player capable of leaving a lasting legacy, according to AS. So this has been translated, so it might have a slightly unusual phrasing. United officials say they are prepared to make a significant investment to fill Casemiro's boots, estimating a budget of more than 230 million for the role, although that figure would ideally see them recruit up to 3 players. The shortlists are shares one key trait, Premier League experience and proven quality in England. So that's why we're hearing names like Baleba, Wharton, Anderson, Guimaraes, Tonali. The one thing they all have in common, well, the two things, they're all midfielders, obviously, and they all have Premier League experience. You see that there, those names I've mentioned. Guimaraes and Tonali are central figures for their current club, Newcastle. Guimaraes, despite being sidelined with an injury, is viewed by United as a foundational player for the future, with Casemiro himself reportedly recommending this signing as well. Newcastle is negotiating a contract extension with Guimaraes, making a transfer complicated. Tonali, meanwhile, could be tempted to return to Italy. Juventus is interested, but currently cannot afford him. But staying in the Premier League and joining a Big Six club is increasingly likely. I mean, it says there United have made formal contact with the players' representatives, but nothing is agreed with the clubs. Clearly sounding out a little bit of a transfer here. Is this something that's possible? Is this something that the players would be into? We've seen that a lot with Ineos, and not just Ineos, but the board and the new structure at Man United. We'd like to check in with the player first. Are you up for this? Would you come to Man United if a deal can be struck? We did it with Sesko, we did it with Mbeumo, we did it with Cunha. All of those players basically only wanted to come to Man United after that interest was known. And obviously that's a great way to do things. First of all, you only want players who want to be here. And secondly, as we've mentioned a million times, you don't want another Frankie de Jong situation where the fee is basically agreed with the club and the player goes, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be at Man United. Because I think above all else, if you can't agree a fee with the club, that's one thing. That's just club to club, headbutt, whatever. If a player publicly makes it clear, or it becomes clear through a transfer that a player essentially rejects you as Man United, that is far more embarrassing and damaging than, the club's not being able to agree a fee. In terms of Manuel Ugarte, he reportedly earns approximately 120 grand a week at Manchester United. So that's it's not nothing, is it? It's loads, more than we'll ever earn, I'm sure, in a week. But what it is affordable for a lot of clubs. There's probably 24 clubs in world football that can pay that, or maybe even more, rather than like we said, if you're on 250, 300 grand a week, like the likes of Sancho and Rashford and others that we've tried to get rid of in the past are. Very, very few clubs can pay that, and certainly not the types of clubs that would want to buy Ugarte. They're going to be Italian league clubs, which were mentioned in the article. I think there's a Turkish league club as well. Was it Besiktas? I can't remember who it was that was interested in him in January. They can pay 120 grand a week, but unless it's for a standout superstar like a Victor Osimhen, they can't pay 250 grand a week. It was Galatasaray, thank you. So that's the sort of the current lay of the land in terms of the midfield. People saying it's mad how tapping up is just totally allowed nowadays. Yeah, it is. And yeah, every so often, couple of years or so, you'll hear about a team or a club threatening to have a go at someone else for tapping up. Wasn't it Forest threatened to do it with Tottenham over Morgan Gibbs-White? They've been tapping him up, he's been tapping him up. How did they know about his release clause and all this? First of all, if you've got a release clause in the player's contract and you don't tell anyone, what is the point in that? Then it's completely defying the purpose of a release clause. That's real tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it make a noise? If a player has a release clause in their contract, but you don't tell anyone, is it even there? How could anyone possibly know to activate that release clause if you're hiding it from everyone? So yeah, weirdly, tapping up is just a normal part of football these days, isn't it? I think it probably always was, really. But I think now, especially with social media, with how easy it is to contact people, I'm sure they're not, Jason Wilcox isn't DMing Bruno Guimaraes. But in the world of, pass me his number quick, quick text, quick this, quick that, what do you reckon, quick call, Zoom call, whatever, you can find out very, very quickly whether a player is interested in joining you, even if you don't have to, it probably won't be Wilcox. It'll be intermediaries acting on behalf of Manchester United. So worst case scenario, well, no, it's just someone's agent. It's just someone from the agency asked his agent. You couldn't really punish someone or sort of take someone to court over that. Gibbs-White and the owner, the day after signing a new contract, that was bad, wasn't it? That was all a bizarre scenario. But again, Morgan Gibbs-White, another one on United's list supposedly for the summer as well. Let's move on to our next story then. This is a little look at tomorrow's game. Nick Voltemade looks like he's probably going to be out. He's been sort of down with a sickness bug, as it says there. Is a doubt for tomorrow's match against Man United. There's obviously an illness in the squad, said Eddie Howe, after Jacob Ramsey vomited at half-time on Saturday. Ramsey trained yesterday and is set to be involved against Man United. Voltemade hasn't been seen at training since the weekend's defeat. I mean, in fairness, this was written this morning, and the weekend only ended 2 days ago. So basically, he didn't train yesterday, I think is that story. It's weird, isn't it, with Nick Voltemade? Because he started really well. Everyone was like, oh, he's brilliant. Newcastle, they've just got this weird thing with strikers. Whoever they sign, they end up being a cult hero, whether it's Demba Ba or Isak or Shearer or Cisse or whatever. They just get, they've just got this production line of really good number nines. And then I saw some graphics the other day about he's, as it stands, this is a crisis for Nick Voltemade. He's really struggling. He's barely getting a touch in any games this season. He's just not getting involved. He's terrible. I mean, they overpaid for him. I don't think he's a terrible player, is he? Maybe not. I don't know. A foundational player for the future. How old is he? Will he need replacing in 3 years? I think if you're talking about Bruno Guimaraes, he is 28. So he's someone that is very much on the upper cusp of what Ineos like to buy players, the age that Ineos like to buy players at. 29, 30, I don't think we'd buy him. 28 still might be kind of prohibitive in terms of, whether United want to see him as someone for the future, because I wouldn't say you're on a decline at 28, but you haven't got that long until you sort of past your best, especially someone like him who's a kind of all-action, all-energy midfielder. yeah, I don't know how long his career is going to last. Any word on Shaw, Maguire or Martinez? No, not yet, but Michael Carrick's press conference should be today at around 1:30. So I'm sure after that has happened, we will know exactly where we're up to with those three. I reckon Martinez might be back. I'm not sure about the other two, because they said they weren't feeling very well, were they? Or they didn't feel right or something, which is a bizarre phrase, almost like they're ill rather than they're injured. But we'll have to see. We'll find out at 1 o'clock today, 1:30, should I say. Let's move on to our next story then, what we got. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Ineos boss told it's a football club, not a chemical company, with ex-stars left in need. So Jim Ratcliffe's cuts blamed for leaving Man United heroes without medical care. This is in the Eye. Pete Hall, who we've had on the channel before. United's a man of the match in the 1968 European Cup final is struggling to pay his medical bills. 12 months on from Sir Jim Ratcliffe cutting funding from an organisation that helps former players in need. The Association of Former United Players was set up in 1958 to raise money for charities and help out when ex-stars need help. However, it is now facing extinction after Ratcliffe withdrew the club's annual £40,000 donation. It was part of Ineos' wider cost-cutting measures, and at the time it was announced, it seemed like just another PR disaster for Jim Ratcliffe. 1 year on, the consequences of Ratcliffe's cuts are being felt. John Aston, who edged George Best to man of the match in the man of the match prize in United's 1968 triumph, has just had a stroke, remaining in hospital, having also contracted sepsis. Horrendous. When the old boys found out about John's illness, they gave £5,000. It was all they could manage to help buy a wheelchair. Aston's wife, Gaynor, tells the Eye paper. United, to their credit, matched it. Otherwise, we are self-funding as we're not eligible for government help. If I want to get him home better to care for him, we're looking at costs of £80 per visit from essential nurses 4 times a day. I just don't know how we'll manage. I mean, this is what happens, isn't it? This is why things like this trust was set up. This is why you don't just cut things like this, and you don't just cut things that help people who are vulnerable. Yes, he may have played for Man United and been the man of the match in the 68 Cup final, but that doesn't mean he's set for life. But it's different now. Players retiring now, unless they are really reckless with their money, should be able to live an extravagant, lavish lifestyle between now and their 90s or whatever, however long they live for. Players playing in the 60s who, John Aston, like I said, had a fantastic game, had a good career at Man United, but wasn't a world star of football, isn't one of the big sort of names of the era. You don't have enough money to last forever. And that's why these sorts of things are so important. And you look after players who represented Man United, winning United the biggest trophies in history. That 1968 Cup final, one of the most important moments in the history of Manchester United after what had come before it. You look after people like this. And obviously matching that £5,000 donation is a nice touch. But this is why you don't cut things like this willy-nilly, just because you've decided we need to cut a third of the operating costs at Man United. On the other hand, you could sort of say, well, it's only £40,000. How far does that even stretch? Well, it might stretch to get John Aston a wheelchair. It might stretch to help him have people come to his house and look after him 4 times a day for the next couple of years. Like, it matters a lot to people. And £40,000, we were talking about before, Ugarte on 120 grand a week, as though that's some sort of, small fee. That's a third of that, and United can't pay it. I just think little things like that make such a big difference. And how much of a difference does that make to Gaynor Aston's life, who we're talking about here, John Aston's wife? It would make all the difference to her. Peace of mind, stress, looking after him, making sure he's comfortable, all of those sorts of things. And it's £40,000. And it might not cover every single bill, but it certainly helps, doesn't it? Certainly takes a lot of that stress away. So I think that's the thing when people are outraged at the cuts that Jim Ratcliffe makes and the this, that and the other that happens, it's because one day something like this is going to happen. And then it does matter, and then it is real and it is personal, and it does affect, players that have absolutely put Man United on the map as the club that they are today, need help. This is why you don't just... Yeah, get rid of that. £40,000, who cares? Well, people care, and it helps people. Jim Ratcliffe probably made that amount in interest this morning. Exactly. Let's move on to our next story. Just such a shame, isn't it, that? Roy Keane accused of being a bully and a hypocrite by ex-Man United masseuse. This is more like what we come for, isn't it? This is the Stretford Paddock story here. Roy Keane has been branded a bully by former United physio after the Irishman claimed that physios were scavengers in the dressing room. I don't know if anyone remembers this. It was 2024. Roy Keane basically let loose. It's sort of semi-joking, but you could tell that he kind of meant it as well. Saying that the masseuses would get a little bit cocky. He said, here you go, look. Oh no, keep going down. The Keane stuff's later and we'll come back to this. He said, yeah, what used to annoy me is that the lads who used to do the massages, they'd get a bit cocky. They'd settle in and think they were running the show. They've got music on when the team wins something and all the masseurs would be running on the pitch. He said, we're having a night out, free bar. They'd come in with all their mates. They'd be wearing their headphones as if they were players coming off the bus. Anyone selling their car, trying to get the players' cars on the cheap. They'd hang around and get players' boots. They'd end up having loads of boots and the lads' trainers scavengers in the dressing room, which, I mean, is a little bit harsh, in it. First of all, it's a little bit funny as well. But then we've got a former United masseur. Who was it again? What's the name of the guy? It was Rob Thornley. He said, I witnessed Keane bully people many a time. He also says he went on about masseuses and buying players' cars. He sold his car to the caretaker at Man United. So I can't buy one off a player, but you can sell it to a member of staff. Now, this is getting juicy now, isn't it? All the things he said were just bullshit, just aimed trying to hurt me. Then I then got abused online massively and it affected me mentally. It was just effing horrible. It's typical him, bullying someone. That's what Roy Keane's about a lot of the time. He also labelled Keane a hypocrite for allowing his daughter Carrot on the overlap to promote her breakfast cereal brand. You can have two things true at the same time, can't you? I'm sure in every job, certain people end up, I'm sure there were people that thought they were part of the players and all that, and the players would probably look at that and go, come on, we're the ones that do the big boy job here. But also, you take away the masseuses, you take away the caretakers, you take away the reception staff, you take away the people that cook the food, you take away the groundsmen, you take away all the people that individually, they're not the players, they're not what Man United. All of a sudden, you're eating shit, the training ground's shit, your kit isn't washed, the ground's shit to play on, the grass is overgrown, there's rats and mice everywhere. All of a sudden, it's a lot harder to be Roy Keane. So you can't just completely undermine everyone that does anything that isn't, the top level playing staff. I get, understanding where you are and understanding sort of the hierarchy of things, I understand. But there is an element of like, they're all people that make Man United successful as well. As Keane proved, as Fergie proved, as Jay always likes to say, giving, all the staff and the cooks and the cleaners a bollocking after we lost to Liverpool, because it's everyone's fault. And if it's everyone's fault, then everyone gets the credit when it goes well. Keane is a bit like this, isn't he? We just have to accept that. The strength and the intensity and the aggression that made him so good as a player and as a captain also at times makes him a bit of a knobhead. It just does. We all saw the comments about Michael Carrick's wife. He clearly has a grudge against Michael Carrick, presumably for what his wife said, or maybe it started before that, who knows. Sometimes you look at Roy Keane and his response to things and think, that doesn't seem rational. That doesn't seem like it makes sense. We all know that he still won't speak to Sir Alex Ferguson 20 years after he left Man United because he felt it was hard done to, which I get, he probably was a little bit hard done to, but at the same time, this is also the man that gave you all of the stuff that you had up until 2005, was it, when he left Man United. So we know Keane can be a bit like this. And I'm sure if we all saw everything that was said behind the scenes back when he was at Man United, some of it would look like bullying. And maybe some of it was bullying. But there's also this element, isn't there, that people get hurt, people get sort of abused for things that have happened. And then you want to lash out and you want to sort of have your word as well. So I get it. It's just a funny little story, isn't it, that Roy Keane, sometimes he'll just pop up with these mad little vendettas. Like, he doesn't like Michael Carrick's wife. He doesn't like the masseuses or the masseurs at Man United. All these things in people that it was like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But I think that's Roy Keane for you. Joe, did you do a Jim Carrey? Just joking. No, I didn't on purpose. What? People think I've had Botox? Have you seen that video of Jim Carrey? It makes me so sad. The weirdest thing about the video is he's got like weird, like orange patches of skin. Like, it's like, that's the bit I thought didn't make any sense. I don't like it. His eyes are all sunken. For anyone that's seen it, Jim Carrey, the actor, comedian, has had a bit of work done. And all of a sudden he looks like a sort of one of those housewife cooking hosts from the 1990s. It wasn't Jim Carrey, it was a double. I think it was Jim Carrey, unfortunately. But no, I haven't had any work done. Not yet, anyway. We'll see there one day. Let's have a look at this. I think the Cheeto story. Let's end with that, I think. United youngster Cheeto forced off in under-21's clash with worrying head injury. Young striker Cheeto. Let's just get into it. Let's have a look. Cheeto was substituted after... Keep going. After just 7 minutes after picking up a concerning injury at Chelsea. He was named in the under-21 side to take on Chelsea on Monday evening. This is last night, obviously. His evening didn't last long. He attempted to chase down a clearance from the Blues goalkeeper Max Merrick just seconds into the game with the ball cannoning into his head. Obi received lengthy attention from the United staff and was eventually substituted. He was well enough to walk off the pitch, and I also had a brief conversation with under-21's interim manager Adam Lawrence. United will now conduct further tests. So it doesn't. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the footage. The description of it there implies to me that it's presumably a relatively minor injury. Usually, you don't see long-lasting effects from people getting the ball kicked at the head. Maybe an accumulation over a full career you might, but hopefully he should be all right. And he seems to be back to goal-scoring ways a little bit as well, which is good to see, because he had a little bit of a dip, didn't he, and seemed to be, that transition into the first team and then back into the academy was a little bit difficult for him, but he seems to be finding his feet again, which is very good. But yeah, that's going to be all from us this morning. We're going to be back later on. We've got the preview coming out as well. I'm hopefully going to be sitting down to have a chat with Stephen Howson as well, so we'll get into all of that. Make sure you check out all of our different apparel, clothing, merchandise, whatever you want to call it. Loads of different jumpers, T-shirts, hoodies, everything. Long sleeve T-shirts. There's all sorts on there. Stretfordpaddock.store. The link is in the chat. It's also in the description. Make sure you go and check it out. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We'll see you in a bit.